welcome to Hear All Evil, a show where we look for things in music that bring us back and make us feel emotions. My name is Jesse. I'll be your host, your guide. Come with me on an adventure, shall we? So this is a show where we talk about music. We'll just pick a couple of songs or pieces each week, or however frequent I can do this, and kind of take a critical look at them. Not too analysis heavy, but just something where we can. There's something inherent in the music that makes us feel things, or makes me feel things, and I want to figure out what those are and talk about them. And if you feel the same way about music that you like, I want to hear about that as well. So this came about, this was an idea I had for, I was going to do this as like a blog at one time, just type up something about a song or a piece of music that I liked, put it on the internet somewhere. But I thought that a podcast might be a better way to go about this. I could just kind of talk it through, and I feel like that would be a little more natural. So yeah, here we are. I apologize for the sound quality. This is kind of a pilot episode. I'm testing some things out. I'm just literally going to record this into my crappy laptop, cut and paste some things here and there, and put it out. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. A little background: I have a degree in music composition and theory that I don't use at all in my day-to-day life, but that's what this podcast will be for. Yeah, I think for the time being, it's just gonna be me. We might have some other guests on in the future. We'll see how that plays out. And anyone that's listening to this, if you have an idea and you want to be on the show, you're more than welcome, and you can pick anything you like. I'm not limiting any kind of genres here. I like pretty much anything. So rock, metal, pop, rap, romantic, classical, jazz. It's all good. Noise. It's all great. Yeah, bring it. I'll leave some contact info at the end of the show. You can contact me, and if you know me IRL, if you know me in real life, hit me up for sure. You can be on the show. We could talk about that. So the format that I have for now will be I'm just gonna pick two pieces of music from, like I said, any genre, and just talk about them. I'm hoping somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15-20 minutes. That should be enough time, but that's open to interpretation. That could change in the future. Yeah, I think that's it. So without too much ado, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to take a look at today is a song by the band ISIS called Holy Tears. And just for clarity, this is the band ISIS, not the extremist group of other fame. This was a band of gentlemen from the United States that played rock music. So just for clarity, there's that. Let's travel back in time to 2006 from an album called In the Absence of Truth. Really great album. Just amazing stuff. If you're not familiar with the band ISIS, they don't exist anymore. They are what I would call a post-metal band. More like post-metal, kind of like vaguely, I don't know, black metal, I guess you could say. When I say post-metal, what does that mean? You're probably saying, like, what does that mean? Like post-rock, post-metal, post-punk. It's something that has that idea of like the form or the guitar style or drum style or bass style or keyboard style of a rock song or a metal song, but with more of a minimalist approach to it. Not straight minimalism, but something that's very repetitive, can be built on. That's kind of what they do. That's really ISIS. Their MO was basically start somewhere simple, add to it, build to it, and head somewhere totally different. It was very common for them to write songs that had either very few or no repeating sections. Think of like some of those Tool songs that are kind of like that. They just kind of have these like series of riffs that build and don't ever really repeat, but they're all kind of semi-related. ISIS did that, but in a different sense. It was more of repetition in one instrument and then building upon that. And that was the way they would create tension. It was very dynamic. It would start very small and build, and there would be this tension that it had to be released. In classical music fashion, you need to build tension and release it. And I feel like ISIS they were masters of doing this. So this song, however, is unlike most of the stuff you would hear from them in that there are plenty of repeated sections. Not only that, they start with this main riff, which you just heard. It actually comes back at the end, which is something they almost never, ever do. But it is so effective in this song, and we'll get to why. I'll get into that. That opening riff, really, that's the key to most of this song. And in fact, it's funny, this song is unlike a lot of their stuff in that it has a very clearly laid out rock music form, verse and chorus that alternate, bridge, maybe another verse or another chorus after the bridge, and it follows that roadmap, which is very, very un-ISIS like, but it works so well. And I feel like this song, they just really, they nail it. They nail that. They make it their own. It's not something they normally do, but they really own it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on here. So you hear that opening riff. It's heavy. It's loud. It's mostly on the beat. There is some slight syncopation in there for interest, but it's mostly just this like really just heavy. You're fucking banging your head, man. It is heavy and just really powerful. Basically just an F sharp minor chord with some funny things going on in the bass for emphasis. Kind of the melody is really shared by the bass and the keyboard. The main guitar riff is just this like da 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 da. Not a lot going on there. It just is heavy, punch in your face kind of thing. Very technical terms I'm using here. But that's it. I mean, this is really the core of the song. It starts, it's the opening, it pretty much owns the beginning. There is what I would call quote unquote a verse, and there's singing involved that alternates, but that riff comes back. It's kind of like almost like a chorus of sorts. It owns the beginning. The entire opening section is all that riff. And spoiler alert, yes, it does come back at the end, and it needs to. It really needs to. The beginning is pretty stagnant. It doesn't have a lot of forward momentum. It is really just showcasing that heavy riff. Like I said, there's some singing, but there's also screaming over it. It's very loud. It's very, very metal-ish. It's just this like wall of sound that just takes over. It's really powerful. Got some really interesting chord movement that's very simplistic. All fits into the key of F sharp minor, but I don't know, I find it very powerful. Where does that go? They really just, it's just loud and powerful and big and in your face. What's the next thing you got to do? Contrast. You just bring it all the way down, and this is what you get. So next, you're just hearing, that's just the bass. Everything drops out. A little guitar for effect, but mostly just the bass. Just two notes. It's just the bass playing F sharp and E, back and forth. No syncopation. There's nothing to syncopation. There isn't even anything to syncopate against. It's just one instrument playing on beats. What is that? 1 and 3. There's rhythm. very clearly stated. It's really just F sharp minor. This is where Isis really does what they do best. I would call this the bridge at this point if we were using, rock music terminology. This is the bridge. They brought it all the way down, just the bass. Now it's time to build it up. Instruments start coming in. We get a little keyboard, plays this. It just kind of comes in a little bit here with a little flourish, and then plays a longer repeating phrase. It's its own layer on top. Guitars come in, drums come in, everything's back in eventually, and it starts to build, and it gets bigger and more fruitful. It's kind of like at this point they're stirring a pot of soup. That bass came in alone. It was just water. It was like, that's just the bass, like soup bass, not instrument bass. There's not much going on. It's just water, and then they start to add things while they're stirring. They add some aromatics, and they add some spices, and they add this and they add that, and they're stirring and stirring. Eventually the water starts to come to a boil, and it starts to boil up, and that's really the tension. Something's happening, even though this whole time it's just been F sharp minor. That it's like not even, it doesn't even change. It's not even like two chords. That E is really, I would argue that is not changing the harmonic concept. It's really acting as more of a lower neighbor tone to the F sharp. It's just something like if you were going to go 1 to 5 to 1, instead you're going 1 to 7 to 1. It doesn't really change the harmonic function, but I don't want to get too much into that. Let's just say it's F sharp minor the whole time. And you're welcome to disagree with me. The other instruments are all just playing things that kind of float around F sharp minor. We're not just outlining the chord. There are non-chord tones. It's all kind of in the general F sharp minor scale. I believe there are some D sharps in there, kind of as like a color tone. That's very common. That's kind of actually like a jazz thing. When you're sitting on a minor chord for a very long time, if you were playing in jazz, it would be a Dorian scale. So you'd have that raised 6th scale degree. In this case, in an F sharp minor key, it would be a D sharp rather than a D natural. And it doesn't always come up. They kind of float around between the two, but it's there, and it adds some more stagnation. It keeps things kind of static. We're not moving anywhere, and we're not going anywhere. But the fact that more instruments are coming in, we add in vocals eventually, things are kind of moving and changing while staying static harmonically, which is, again, this is Isis's bread and butter, really. This is it. So we're stirring that pot, and it's starting to boil and bubble, and you're starting to think, okay, this is going somewhere. Where is this going? And it's hard to even think, like, where can we go next? I remember, like, this part's really long, by the way. I didn't actually bother to time this out before I started. I think it's like 3 or 4 minutes, this bridge section. The whole song itself is 7 minutes. So, if you're looking at like a pie chart, this takes up like 50% plus. Like it's about half the song or more is this bridge section. It really is. It is the largest portion of the piece. That doesn't mean it's the most important, but it does a good job of pulling you in and holding you in one place in F sharp minor. That's really, it's a pretty amazing tool to use compositionally, to be able to just hold someone in F sharp minor. That's a very minimalist concept. You just have something very simple, maybe one chord or a single note or a single phrase, and you just repeat it over and over again, and it becomes this mantra to the listener, like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my whole life. My whole life begins and ends in F sharp minor. That's all I've ever known. That's all that will ever exist in the future. That's it. It's just F sharp minor. You can't even remember, like, this song started somewhere. Like, I remember there was something I was like banging my head to before. It was like super distorted, and there was like screaming. Maybe that was a different song. I can't even remember, man. Like, that was so long ago. And that beginning portion of the song, what is that, like a minute and a half? Like, it's not even that long. It's just enough to establish some things, and then we move on to this long section. By the end of it, you can't even remember where you began, but all you know is that this soup it's stirring, it's boiling, it can't sustain any longer. Like, it's gotta go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. Something needs to come next, and you want it. You feel like you have to get out of this, like you're trapped in this cage, and then this happens. Oh, God, yes, that's it. That is the freedom. It's only 3 chords. It's F sharp minor, D major, E major, back to D major again, and then it repeats. It's very simple. 3 chords. It's the band no longer doing each of their own individual parts. Now we're all in congruence again, together. So we're free. It actually just frees you from this prison of F sharp minor that you've been in. I mean, we're still in F sharp minor, but that bridge that was just this cage, this like man-made cage that held you, and you feel like you're gonna live there forever and all time. That's gone. You're free. And this section, it always hits me. It always like just feels so powerful and freeing, and I wait for it. Like, I could wait through that bridge 3 or 4 times over if it means getting to this part. It has to come next, and it feels so liberating. It is so needed. Really, really amazing. And I think it's also exemplified by the fact it's not even that long. Like, I think you only get this riff for like 30 or 40 seconds. On back to the pie chart, it's the narrowest sliver. Actually, this or this part after it they might be tied for like the tiniest portion. So we're like in this like post bridge. You just get this freedom section for just so short of a time, but it really, I feel like that makes it even more important. That's all you need. You can't if they played this F sharp D E D F sharp thing over and over again, if they like did that for a really long time, it would lose its importance. It wouldn't be as significant. It needs to be that way. And at this point, we don't want to be sitting on a riff or something for a long time. We don't want that anymore. We had that. We spent like 3 or 4 minutes we spent in this quandary of where am I? What's happening? Whoa, and now we're focused. All of the band members, all of the instruments are in congruence. They're working together. We're moving. They go right into another riff right after that. This kind of connecting material it's building up momentum. Like, we're moving fast. We need things happening. Things are going. We're going places. We're building. There's people screaming at me. There's all sorts of stuff happening. And where does it go? What could possibly come next? We're moving somewhere. Something's coming next. What could it possibly be? Yes. 1,000 times yes. It had to be that riff. They set that up. They set that up for you at the beginning. By now, you've more or less forgotten about it, but it's here, and it's real, and it is exactly what we wanted. It's exactly what we needed. Yes. Thank you. It means something different now, because we've been through this 7-minute experience we've been through a journey, and we started with this riff, and we're ending with it, but it holds something else. It's still powerful and empowering, but in a different way, and I find it extremely meaningful, and I feel enriched for the journey. Really just what a fucking amazing song. It's really good. If you haven't listened to it all the way through, go do that ASAP. It's really great. If it's your thing. It's a really great song. The whole album, In the Absence of Truth, is great. Their other albums are amazing. Panopticon, Oceanic. They have some just really amazing things to listen to, and I'm sad they're not making music anymore. But we have things like this. Holy Tears. I'll go back to this all the time. It will forever be something really special in my heart. So, yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to take a little break here, and we'll be back with something else. Welcome back. Alright, thanks for sticking around. So we're going to change gears a little bit here. This is a piece called Moro, lasso al mio duolo by Carlo Gesualdo. He was a figure of nobility in Verona during the Renaissance. And this is a piece from one of his later or even last books of Renaissance madrigals. It's a piece for 5 voices, bass, tenor, alto, and 2 sopranos. It's quite something to listen to. It's an interesting one. Very interesting harmonies going on and juxtaposition of chords, which we'll talk about. A little background. Gesualdo had a tumultuous life. When he was in his 20s or 30s, he ended up walking in on his wife cheating on him with her lover, who was Duke of some other territory in Italy close by. He pretty much killed them on the spot, stabbed them, mutilated their bodies, just really dark stuff. He took it very seriously and had definitely some anger issues there, needless to say. Actually, interesting enough, he remarried. I don't remember now if there was someone that he met. I believe what probably happened is he just put out an order. He was nobility. He put out an order. His bros went out. His wingmen went out into the countryside, found a young lady that was ready to marry, brought her back. He married her. I don't believe he killed her, which is good news. Unless he did, I didn't read anything on that particularly. Sounds like everything was okay for the most part. I don't know. It sounds like a pretty intense guy. Yeah. Anyway, here's the thing. Later in his life, he was definitely haunted by his actions. I think that this piece in particular is his statement of some of the tragedies that happened to him and kind of explains how he felt. I don't really want to just read all the text. It's not very long. There's only like 6 lines. I'll bring up anything that is necessary. I'd more so like to look at what makes this piece so compelling. How do those chords work? Like, what is going on? If you listen all the way through, you might notice there's some very interesting harmonies, interesting ideas happening. It's a pretty by the book madrigal. It has all of the hallmarks of a good madrigal. It has this slow open, but it quickly picks up through, I guess you could say, rhythmic propulsion. There's this very like dance-like feel that comes, especially with these like 16th note figures, but very dramatically it will slow down in sections, especially at the end of phrases. This is a big one. The ends of phrases are very important and really sort of the meat and potatoes of this piece. Thirds and how they're treated. They weren't thinking of a key, like writing in a key like we do today, like you pick a key signature and you write to that key signature. In the Renaissance, that wasn't as big a consideration. You picked a scale, you picked a mode, which is a scale, and you wrote in that mode. You could throw in some accidentals if they were necessary. Sometimes you'd put them at cadences. It was usually nicer to cadence on a major triad than a minor triad, so you might just casually raise the third in the chord just for posterity's sake, but not necessary. The big thing was to avoid Diablo and Musica, the famous tritone. The Catholic Church said, don't write that. Do not do that, because that is the devil in music. The devil said, that's me, I'm in this music. We don't want him here. Jesus said no. He puts his sandaled foot down hard on this issue. No Diablo and Musica. Writing in modes, that's what's going on. That was the hot thing at this time in history. Every mixtape was being written in modes, and it was fire after fire after fire. Every one. They were great. So this is like Gesualdo's like one of his final madrigals, I think his last book. He was doing he was going out there. He was going big. He was going all in, pushed all the chips in, going big on this one. He had some really interesting pieces before this as well. But the stuff that he was doing in this piece particularly, there were some ideas being used by other composers at the time, but the fulcrum of this piece, the ideas there, did not come back for a long time. We didn't really see some of these particular ideas come back till, like 200 years later. Like Beethoven was doing some cool stuff that we'd see in this piece that I want to talk about. First of all, I do want to talk about the phrases, the ends of these phrases, the important things to keep in mind. When you got to the end of a phrase, it would either be just an octave or a unison, maybe just a single voice, or a fifth, or you could have the perfect fifth, and you could throw in a third for color if you wanted to. You didn't have to. It was definitely more of a statement or evoked a different emotion in the listener, whether you had that third or you didn't. What Gesualdo is doing in this piece is he oftentimes will end a big phrase on a single note. I'm looking at a score here. I will probably link it in the description. It's pretty easy to find, so I apologize if what I'm looking at is different from anything that you're looking at, or if you don't even know where to find anything. That's okay. You could just take my word for it. At the end of one of these major phrases towards the beginning, measure 13, kind of ends on just a single note. It ends on C. He sets up this cadence, pretty standard looking cadence, and that it goes from G major to C. That's a pretty strong indication of the end of an idea. This whole phrase, no accidentals. It looks like all of these notes, they're all within the realm of C major. They would be some sort of C mode, Ionian mode, which is basically like a C major scale, right? But he ends on just a single C in the tenor, and then the altos come in above that with an E flat. That's not right. It's supposed to be C major, right? Why would that would be C, E natural, G? That's C major. That's what I would want to see there. He doesn't do that. No. This is he's playing on this ambiguity of thirds in the style, in this Renaissance style. You can just start a new phrase with a brand new harmony. He just throws in an E flat. Suddenly we're in Are we in C minor? It kind of goes off into, it does not stay in C minor, but it's already showing you the relations of thirds and how they're going to play out in this piece. In fact, a colleague of mine once said, and I often think about this when I'm looking at music, especially this kind of music, everything that you need to know about a piece, a good piece, will have stated everything it needs to say within the first minute or couple seconds or first few bars even. This is a great example of that. Everything you need to see, everything that you need to know about this piece is on the first page. It's got everything that we're going to see for the rest of the piece clearly stated here. These very strange, ambiguous cadences, especially the beginning. This opening phrase of 4 chords, it's definitely important. And it also plays into this idea of thirds. The opening has some very odd harmonies, and it's not entirely clear right off the bat how they fit together, but it's pretty easily explainable if you've ever studied romantic music. Not that Gesualdo was thinking this, but what he was using was this idea of chromatic mediant relationships. That's a lot of big words. So let me explain myself. Chromatic mediant relationship. First of all, let's break it down. What would be a mediant relationship? A mediant relationship is a fancy musical school way of saying 2 chords that are related by a third. Their roots are a third apart. So think of like C major and A minor. C and A are a third away from each other. You could think of it as A to C is a minor third, or C up to A would be a major sixth. Sixths are just really inverted thirds. So let's think of it as like A to C, minor third. They share a mediant relationship. And actually, because they don't require any accidentals to spell C major, C natural, E natural, G natural, and A minor, A natural, C natural, E natural, no sharps or flats anywhere in there that differentiate, as we move from one to the other. They actually share a diatonic mediant relationship. Diatonic, these are modern terms. This is not anything that Gesualdo was thinking about or considering. It is all modern ways of explaining these older ideas. So what's the difference between diatonic and chromatic? Chromatic is kind of the umbrella. Everything is chromatic. Chromatic means all the notes of Western music. So every note of the piano. Diatonic is kind of a subsection of that. All of the notes fit into one particular key signature or one particular scale. They're not opposites. Like chromatic and diatonic are not opposite ideas. Think of like in math, how you had real numbers, which was like all the numbers. I mean, there was imaginary, but forget about that. There's real numbers. Inside of that, you have rational numbers and irrational numbers. And then if you go into rational numbers, you have whole numbers and counting numbers. You could like break it down all under this umbrella of real numbers, and you have these like smaller umbrellas. Same kind of thing here. Everything is chromatic. That's the big umbrella. Within that is diatonic, notes that pertain to a specific scale. Back to C major and A minor, they all fit in one scale. We don't need any accidentals to represent either of those 2 chords. So they're diatonic, and they have a mediant relationship, diatonic mediant relationship. What if we said we had C major, C, E, and G, and A major, A, C sharp, and E? Still a mediant relationship. The root notes have not changed. However, now we need an accidental to represent one of the chords. A major needs a C sharp. We have to raise that third. Can't have C natural, we need to have C sharp. So now we're talking about a chromatic mediant relationship. We're using chromaticism to facilitate that. And then this is the icing on the cake. A chromatic mediant relationship means any 2 chords that have roots that are a third apart, no matter the quality of the chord, whether it's a major chord or a minor chord, which is crazy. You can have C major to A major, you could have C major, you could go up to E major, C major to A flat minor. As long as the roots are a third apart, doesn't matter. You can do whatever you like. There's a very famous piece by Beethoven, his Sonata Pathétique, that has this long beginning section in C minor. What you would expect is, okay, so he did this whole thing in C minor. The next phrase is going to be, he's going to do all this in E flat major, do this whole long drawn out thing, and then come back to C minor. That was a typical thing to do with minor keys in his day and age. But what he did is, for dramatic effect, he went from C minor, immediately E flat minor, sharply emotional, sharply expressive. And that's the use of chromatic mediant relationships. That's what it does. It works, but it sounds intense. The idea really is that when you move to a chord that's a third away, the chords that you're using share two notes. So to explain that, C major, C, E, G, A minor, A, C, E, they both have C and E in them. They both have a type of C and E in them. Trick is that with a chromatic mediant relationship, you can kind of fudge the notes. So C major to A major, the C actually changes from C to C sharp, but it still works. It's still, the fact that the roots are a third apart kind of supersedes that. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine to do. No biggie. When you use chromatic mediants, something might change. Like some note may change by a half step. You can't really avoid that. Either there's a diatonic mediant relationship, all the notes are going to stay relatively the same, or you're going to use a chromatic mediant relationship and something's going to change by a half step. You see that right here at the beginning of Moro lasso. We only have 4 voices in at this time. The second soprano is the highest voice. I'm just going to focus on the first 4 whole notes that I see, which are the words Moro lasso. We have E sharp, which, let's just call that an F. F, next is E natural, next is D sharp, next is D natural. That is 4 chromatic notes. F to E, E to D sharp to D natural. If you looked at that on a piano, F is a white key, right? If you go down to E, that's another white key, but there's no black key in between. We're just going down a half step. E to D sharp, white key to black key, it's down another half step. D sharp to D natural, black key to white key, another half step. It's 3 consecutive half steps down from F. This same idea of chromaticism. Those 4 notes will not fit within one particular scale. You can't, it won't work. Believe me, doesn't work. That phrase, those 4 notes, are not diatonic, they are chromatic, and it's very expressive. They're actually, this descending half-step motif is famously referred to as the sigh motif or the lamenting figure. It's like this super sad, it's like the saddest thing you can do in music. That's the saddest thing you can do, is just go down a half step. That's it. It was done far before Gesualdo did it. It was done in his day. It was done hundreds of years later. It's still done to this day. That is the lamenting figure. You go down a half step. Just that half step relation, stepping down. It's like the fucking saddest thing you can possibly do. And he does it 3 times, boom, right off the bat. That's how he starts. Everything that you need to know right here. We've got chords related by thirds. We've got this lamenting figure. He's talking about, I'm dying in my suffering. Like this is it, man. This is heavy stuff. This is metal as fuck. I'm telling you, right here. This is it. This descending 4-note figure is joined by the bass moving down chromatically as well, forming these tenths. Tenth is a third plus an octave. So there it is again, thirds. It's just major thirds. The first chord is C sharp major, so we've got C sharp in the bass, the E sharp on top, and they move down to C natural and E natural. Next bar, B and D sharp. So we're moving down. Both of these voices are strongly showing you the sigh motif, the lament. We are doing some hardcore lamenting right now. This guy was lamenting it up like it was going out of style. Looking at the chords though. Let's go back to the chords. I said we had C sharp major as the first chord. I don't know if he wrote it that way. I'm looking at something that's very much modern notation. This particular version is what I'm going to go off of because it's easy to read and I have it in front of me. So C sharp major, first chord, next chord, A minor. Boom. A minor. It's in first inversion, but it's there. I see an A, I see a C, and I see 2 E's. That's common. If you're in first inversion, you to double the soprano, which happens to be singing E. It's A minor. We had C sharp major to A minor. C sharp and A are related by a major third. They share a mediant relationship. Okay, C sharp major, all sharps. Every note is sharped. You don't even have to, that's one of those keys you don't have to think about. Like, oh, is this a sharp? No, this C sharp major, all the notes are sharped. We have C sharp, E sharp, G sharp, and then A minor, nothing is sharped. It's A natural, C natural, E natural. Very much a chromatic mediant relationship. In fact, it's one of the most interesting chromatic mediant relationships you can do because none of those notes carry over to the next chord. They're technically there. There is a C in both chords. There's an E in both chords, but not the same ones. This is how you get that crazy double lamenting figure. C sharp and E sharp going down to C and E. That's how he got that. That's exactly how he did that, using chromatic mediant relationships, which he was not calling. He obviously didn't call them that, but that's what it is. He does it again. He does it right away. He goes right into a B major chord in root position, and then changes that to G major, B major to G major. The G major is in first inversion, so he's doing something a little bit different because he had to. If we did the same thing, the same exact thing twice, the piece would be over. There's nothing more to write. That's just, I died, I'm dead, the end. No, it had to be more than 4 bars, so it had to be more music than that. This is great. This is really, really, really cool. He lands on this G major chord in first inversion. When you have a major chord in first inversion, shit's gotta happen. That third in the bass is, in music school, we'd call that very unstable. It needs to go somewhere. First of all, we don't even get a chance to sit on this chord. Gesualdo's already starting to write faster notes. We've only seen whole notes or semi-breves at this point, really slow, lamenting. But now it's picking up. Suddenly, he's using this rhythmic propulsion to catapult us into this dance figure, the madrigal. We're getting to the madrigal now. Really cool writing. He was dying. Moro, lasso. He's falling over. I'm dying, alas, in my suffering. And wait, I got more to say. I have more to say. It forces the music to keep going. There's actually something that comes up right here at the beginning that stuck out to me. Right at the beginning here, he has, so the first soprano has come in by this point, and all the other voices drop out. And it's just the 2 sopranos. The second soprano is on an E at the bottom of the staff, and the first soprano is at the G above it. This is like a big interval. We're talking, this is a tenth. It's a tenth. It's a third, but with an octave space in there. The upper voices can be as far away from the bass as you want. Like, you can have the bass all the way down in the basement and the upper voices all together higher up, but you want to keep them close. They need to be relatively close to each other, and there's some wiggle room there, but to have just 2 sopranos singing all the way across the treble staff, that is unusual. And I think it's there to evoke emotions in the listener. I mean, at this point, the text is "E chi mi può dar vita," which translates from Italian to "and she who could give me life." And what he's saying here is, "and she who could give me life, alas, kills me and will not help me." And this particular phrase, "and she who could give me life," he has just the sopranos saying first. And this, I believe, he's thinking of this woman that betrayed him, that was supposed to be his all and his everything, was not such. He thought of her first, and he hears it in her voice, "E chi mi può dar vita," with this very expressive tenth, way up high. And then it comes in again in the tenor and the alto, so a little bit lower down. That's him. He's saying it. He's thinking of it in his voice. Eventually the bass comes and says it as well, and we get these sequences of fast notes. The da-da-da-da-da-da. Those happen on the word vita, definitely on purpose. That would be what we would call word painting. The word life has this very bouncy, happy quality. He's thinking of life, but not forgetting the woman that the piece is really about. I mean, she wronged him. He took it very seriously, took it very personally. Really powerful, just the way that it's written. That's really it. Like I said, everything that you need to know about this piece is right here at the beginning. We've got these chromatic mediant related chords. We've got expressive uses of tenths, both in those chromatic mediants and in the part writing, in that soprano part. We've got expressive uses of thirds at the end of phrases. So ending on a C that's supposed to have an E natural over it, and then jumping in with an E flat. Whoa, bro, shit's crazy. So, I mean, that's it. That's what he was doing here. It really is an amazingly written piece, and is extremely, extremely expressive, and fucking metal as fuck, dude. It's fucking crazy. As far as madrigals go, they don't get much more metal than this. So I definitely wanted to talk about it. There's so much more I could talk. Like, I haven't even gone into any of the specifics of, like how the phrases fit together. He kind of reuses material, but he moves it through different keys, which would be cool to talk about. But I think I might just keep it where I'm at for now. I feel like I hit upon everything that I wanted to say. If you have more to say, if anyone out there has more that they wanted to add, let me know. We can. I mean, it's something like this it's such a dynamic piece. Like, we could revisit this. Or if you disagree with me, let me know for sure. If you don't like some of the things I said, or you think I was wrong, let me know. I'd actually like to know. I think that's gonna do it for this section. I'm gonna take another little break, and I'll be back to wrap things up in a sec. Alright, so first episode in the can. Yep, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for hanging out. Again, I apologize for the sound quality. That will hopefully be resolved soon. If you liked what you heard today, excellent. There'll be more. I'm going to try and have an episode out every week. If you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions or suggestions, or you want to be on the show, drop me a line. If you know me in real life, go ahead and hit me up. But I've set up an email address. It's hereallevil@gmail.com. hereallevil@gmail.com. Drop me a line. You can find me on Twitter. It's @cityofwalls_. So CITYOFWALLS_. You could tweet at me. I'm also on Instagram. Just look for City of Walls. I'll be advertising the show on these different social media outlets. I'll probably put it on my personal Facebook. I don't think I'm going to set up a Facebook page for the show yet. Maybe down the road. I kind of want to avoid that if possible, but we'll see. I might do so. I'll be posting the episode a few different places. Pass it along to your friends. If you think anyone would be into the show, let them hear it. Send it out there. I'm going to be using a lot of word of mouth to get this show out there. If you're listening to it on SoundCloud or YouTube or iTunes, leave a comment, like it, whatever you can do. Just it kind of helps spread the word. It really helped me out. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thanks for sticking around. I do another show with my buddy Matt called Steamroller. Look for that as well. There should be some episodes to listen to at this point. Check it out. I don't really have a good sign-off. Just make sure that you're out there listening, and know that when you come here, you'll find all evil. All right, have a good week, everyone. Bye. You're All Evil was produced by City Walls Productions.